Welcome to Midlife Mojo, the podcast all about how to be fit and flourish in your 50s. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of Midlife Mojo with your host, Lisa DuPree. That's me. I'm thrilled that you could join me today as I'm going to go through 5 things that I stopped doing in my 50s that changed my life in big ways. So when we reach our 50s, we've lived a lot of life. We've developed habits and patterns that have stuck with us for years, some of which may no longer be working for us like they did in the past. And some of them, they just don't support the results that we want now at this point in life. I found that by making a few key shifts in my routines and behaviors in my 50s, it really led to noticeable improvements in my well-being and overall enjoyment of life. So today, I'm going to share the 5 things that have made the biggest positive impact for me in hopes that it can inspire you to evaluate what shifts could allow you to thrive in this stage of life. These 5 things fall into key areas that I focus on in my coaching programs to help clients be fit and flourish in their 50s. And those areas are eating, sleeping, moving, thinking, and connecting. So those are the 5 areas of positive change that I'm excited to explore with you today. And I hope that you'll find a nugget or two of inspiration that you can apply in your own life. Let's dive in. First up is eating. I used to regularly eat a lot of processed snacks, pasta, and bread. These were just some of my favorite go-to foods. And I didn't really realize how much it was causing me discomfort and even harming my body. I just thought feeling bloated and tired all the time was just my lot in life. That was just how I was. I was diagnosed with IBS in my early 20s, and shortly thereafter, I ended up giving up dairy, and that helped tremendously, but it didn't solve all the problems. And so in my 40s, I went and saw a gastroenterologist because my symptoms weren't just like annoying anymore. They were really causing me severe discomfort. And I was finding myself missing out on things because I just felt like crap all the time. So the doctor did a lot of testing and found out that I was sensitive to gluten. And she really encouraged me to try eliminating gluten from my diet to see if it made any difference. So I stopped eating gluten. That was the first thing I stopped. I kind of learned what contained gluten. So a lot of there's foods that have hidden sources of gluten. So it really took a little bit of time to figure it out. I also just began focusing on foods that were high in fiber, like vegetables, beans, fruits, lentils, lean proteins, fish, chicken, plant-based meat alternatives, and making that, really the bulk of my diet and not really replacing a lot of the typical kind of gluten-containing foods with gluten-free alternatives, although I have started adding some of those back into my diet. But when I made that change and I took gluten out of my diet, it didn't take long for me to notice a difference. I had more steady energy throughout the day. I slept better. I just felt healthier. I could move easily because my joints weren't kind of as achy and inflamed. My skin improved significantly by going dairy-free. And I'd already been dairy-free for a while, but when I went gluten-free, it really helped. I had no more like dry, itchy patches, and my nails and hair improved. So it was no longer like they weren't really brittle or dry. And then the best thing is I didn't have to rely on antacids and different digestive aids or just have to plan to be near the bathroom at all times. So it really made a huge difference. I learned to cook and meal prep with, different gluten-free foods, different recipes, and it really helped kind of making it fun and creative. And I'm excited to say that I think I've finally cracked the code on gluten-free bread. I have been practicing to get a gluten-free bread because one of my favorite foods is like a nice, crusty, warm piece of artisan bread and dipping it in olive oil with balsamic vinegar. So good. So I think I've cracked that code. Even my gluten-loving partner and family members and my daughter love this bread. So that was the first thing that I stopped, and just making changes from there. The next thing was in the area of sleep. And I realized this might be controversial for some, or just not even on the radar for some people to even contemplate. And the thing that I stopped was I stopped sleeping with my significant other. We still have an intimate relationship, but like actual, like going to bed and going to sleep and sleeping in the same bed. Nope, that's what I stopped. I spent decades sleeping in the same bed as my spouse every night when I was married. And it was just out of habit, and also kind of the belief that that's just what was normal. And if you were married, that's just what you did. So kind of fast forward to me turning 50 and getting divorced. I began sleeping in my own bed in my own place. And I realized that I enjoyed having the whole bed to myself. I mean, I loved it, like really, really loved it. So when I didn't have a bed partner, I slept better and I had less stress, especially since I was kind of still going through menopause, having night sweats, kind of tossing and turning anyway, sometimes in the middle of the night, getting up, throwing covers off of you, trying to cool down. I just didn't have that stress that I had when that was kind of going on and I had a bed partner. And so a few years passed. My current boyfriend, he sleeps soundly. He snores so loudly though, and he just moves around at night a lot. It's like a flopping fish. It's crazy how much he moves and still is dead asleep. But all this really just disrupted my sleep. So when we moved in together after a few years, we fell back into the pattern of sleeping together because, that's just what was supposed to happen. However, it made me miserable, and I began resenting this expectation, and I just began resenting it. It took me a while to really feel comfortable enough to speak up. But when we each had our own bed, like we both slept better, we woke up more refreshed, when we were in our own beds. And, it took a little bit of getting used to, but now we really enjoy our alone time at night, and we each have our own sleeping schedules and our winding down routines. We still have an intimate relationship. We cuddle and connect more intentionally throughout the day and in the evenings when we're together. But I really just feel more energized, getting better sleep, which makes me overall a happier person and a better partner overall. So my chronic exhaustion, like the bags under my eyes, and best of all, the simmering and resentment is gone. It did take communication and focusing on creating intimacy in different ways, but sleeping separately has been so important for the health of our relationship and our mental health. So that was number 2. I stopped sleeping with my partner. The next thing was I changed how I moved and I exercised. So I used to do exclusively cardiovascular type exercise, aerobic type exercise, like jogging, biking, group exercise classes, and dance. But after turning 50, I realized I needed to change up some things. And so the third thing I stopped is I stopped doing only cardio. So I was doing pretty much just cardiovascular exercise. And so I stopped that, and I shifted some of that workout time that I already built into my routine and my schedule to include resistance training and weight training. And that was so I could build muscle mass, strengthen bones, joints, those kind of things. So I started working with a personal trainer once a week, focusing on all the major muscle groups. And I still work out by myself. I still work out with her as well. But I really focused on building up my back, my core, my arms, and my legs. And upper body days are by far my favorite. I like to use a variety of different things like weight machines, stability balls, resistance bands, free weights. And I can say after being consistent for 2+ years, I really know that stopping doing only cardio for exercise and incorporating strength training has increased my metabolism, my sense of balance and coordination, and as well as endurance. So even as I'm getting older and well into my 50s, I feel like I'm actually able to dance more effectively because my range of motion is better. I'm stronger, more balance, more coordination. So I noticed that I was really getting a great feeling of accomplishment by being able to see progress and lifting heavier over time. And I noticed something, it's even practical. There was this big, heavy leather sectional couch I had in my house, and my daughter wanted to move it into our apartment, and it was just the two of us. So we ended up moving this huge, heavy beast of a couch just by ourselves. And I don't think I could have done this a few years ago. I just don't think so. So that was a big shift. I stopped doing only cardio and added in weight training. So next up is a conscious and strategic change in how I was thinking. This was not easy. I think it was probably the toughest of all the 5 things that I'm highlighting today, and it's still a work in progress. So definitely not easy, not a quick fix, but it's well worth the effort. So in my 40s and even before my 40s, I just had a habit of endlessly worrying about things, like things that might go wrong, things that I might have said that I should have said differently, all these things. My anxiety really, really ramped up when perimenopause started in my 40s, and it was a bit scary. I would actually just sit and ruminate and just go over and over scenarios and then assume the worst case as if it were inevitable or as if it had already happened. And so this constant catastrophizing and this panic that it created really just led to a lot of unnecessary stress. And so I knew it was something I needed to get a handle on and stop. So after turning 50, I started to get more consistent practicing mindfulness, meditation, and self-compassion to help manage my anxiety. And now when I catch myself starting to worry or catch myself starting to get back into that rumination, that catastrophizing, the overthinking, that kind of thing, I notice, I take a pause, take a couple of breaths, bring my awareness back to the present moment. I'll get up and go for a walk or listen to some uplifting kind of music, or I'll tune into an interesting podcast, or even just call somebody and just talk about, whatever, something just to kind of get my mind out of that more automatic thinking pattern. So over time, this has really helped rewire my brain to be more positive. I feel more balanced, and I'm definitely more grateful for all the things I have in my life, and I'm able to handle challenges or even just handle bad news with more resilience instead of anxiety and rumination and overthinking and stress. Even my relationships are stronger because I'm not as anxious and in constant panic mode all the time. So that was the 4th thing that I stopped. I stopped endlessly worrying, ruminating, catastrophizing. So definitely well worth it. And that brings us to the 5th thing, and that's in the area of connection. So I used to regularly just accept social invitations, and being somewhat of an introvert, I felt like, I had to do some of these things. And so I would accept social invitations and even offer to help friends, or say that I could make myself available to help, even when I just genuinely did not want to either go out or or I didn't have the bandwidth to actually show up and assist my friends with whatever they were needed. So I ended up doing these things out of what I felt as a sense of obligation and guilt, and just a general desire to please others and make other people happy. And I would overextend myself. And now that I'm over 50, I just really decided I cannot continue to do things in this way. So I gave myself permission to say no. And so that's the fifth thing. I gave myself permission to say no. And I say no to the things I don't want to do. I say no to things that someone just expects me to do. And I say no, especially to things that people try to guilt me into when I've already said no. So I learned to set much more healthy boundaries around my time and energy. And I ask myself if something will nourish me or drain me before I commit. And in either way, it can go either way. So I could say I was going to do something if I knew it was going to nourish me or if I knew it was going to drain me. But if I know it's something that's going to be draining, I need to make sure that I have a way to kind of recharge my batteries, or I have the bandwidth to be able to help in a way that I want to show up. I also say no to non-essential events in order to prioritize self-care. And this has really allowed me to focus on my most treasured relationships instead of spreading myself too thin. I take time to recharge my mental, emotional, and relational batteries. And I've realized that true friends and people that care about me just really respect that, sometimes I just can't help them. I just can't do what they want at the moment, and that has just allowed me to feel less stressed overall. And saying no when appropriate actually makes me feel stronger and empowered, and it allows me to maintain my boundaries and advocate for my personal needs. Well, there you have it. Those are the 5 key areas where I made positive changes in my 50s that have improved how I eat, sleep, move, think, and connect. So to recap, I stopped eating gluten, which improved my energy, digestion, skin. I stopped sharing a bed with my partner and started sleeping in my own bed for better rest and rejuvenation and better energy. Third thing was I stopped doing as much cardio and incorporated strength training into my exercise routine to build muscle and support my joints. I stopped ruminating and catastrophizing as much and started practicing mindfulness to help manage anxiety and perimenopause and menopausal symptoms. And I stopped saying yes to things and people all the time just to please them or just to keep the peace. So I started setting boundaries around my time to nurture my most valued relationships. As you reflect on your own life, consider, are there 1 to 2 small changes that you could make in one of these 5 areas, whether it be around eating, sleeping, moving, thinking, or connecting? Just pick one thing to try for 1 to 2 weeks and see how you feel. It could be super simple as just turning out an invitation to go out. It could be just getting outside and walking for a few minutes, a few times a week, or it could be really simple, like setting a consistent bedtime. So it doesn't have to be big. It just has to be something that you think is going to up level, your overall health and well-being. And it's totally fine to start small and see if it makes a difference before you make any other changes. So I hope that these personal examples have sparked some ideas for you. Let me know. I'd love to hear from you. You can connect with me at Lisa DuPree Coaching on Instagram, or my email is lisa@lisadupreecoaching.com. So if you decide to make any changes, looking to make a positive change in your 50s, I would love to hear how it goes. And I'm wishing you all the best as you continue on your journey to increase your midlife mojo and be fit and flourishing in your 50s. Until next time, take care.